Okay, let's evaluate the integral of e to the sine of x times x cosine x minus secant x times the tangent x. It's a fairly complicated integral, and the way we're going to solve it is to break it up into two integrals. The first one is x cosine of x times e to the sine x minus the second integral of secant x tangent x e to the sine x. And we're going to use integration by parts for both of these integrals. So let's start with the integral on the left. We're going to let u be x and dv be cosine x e to the sine x dx. Du is just 1 dx, and v, it's not that hard to see that v is going to be e to the sine x. We can differentiate e to the sine. The derivative of e to the sine is e to the sine times cosine, which is exactly dv. For the second integral, I'm going to use u1 and dv1. u1 is going to be e to the sine x, so du1 will be e to the sine x times cosine x dx, and dv1 will be secant x times tangent x dx, so that v1 is the antiderivative of secant tangent, which is secant x. It's really the only thing that we can select, because otherwise we either will not be able to differentiate, or the problem will be even more complicated than before. So here we go. The left integral, let me write the left integral, keep it up here on the screen. It's going to be u times v, so x e to the sine x minus the integral of v du, which is the integral of e to the sine x dx, minus the second integral. The second integral is u1 times v1, which is secant x times e to the sine x, minus the integral of v1 du1, which is e to the sine x cosine x secant x dx. But notice that cosine times secant is 1 over cosine, so that's 1. And we can express this as x e to the sine x minus the integral of e to the sine x dx minus secant x e to the sine x, and then minus a minus plus the integral of e to the sine x dx. And you can see that minus integral e to the sine plus integral e to the sine cancel. We don't have to integrate anything anymore, and our solution is right there on the screen. So to summarize, a fairly complicated integral of e to the sine x times x cosine x minus secant x tangent x dx is now solved. It is equal to x e to the sine x minus secant x e to the sine x plus c, or we can factor out e to the sine x times x minus secant of x plus c. So we integrated by parts twice and ended up with the two integrals in the integration by parts process canceling each other out, leaving the answer